And gentlemen, this interview will obviously be in English. I love this. When I do this, these are very special. And this next guest is starring on the new sensation, season 31 of The Ultimate Fighter. The only Boricua in the cast, ladies and gentlemen, Landon Lone Wolf Quiñones.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, bro.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you. It's a blessing to be here.
You know what? I was telling you before we turned on the cameras that I am a UFC casual. I've been aware of obviously of the promotion for maybe 20 years, but it's only recently, especially since I interviewed Masvidal. He's who got me into it. I was preparing for his interview and learned that he's a badass.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And got into it. And since then, I've been getting into the sport. I've had people like Chito Vera, Ilia Topuria, Waldo Cortez, the Dominican. But you have come in a very special moment in history because even though you almost were in, there are two cool ways to get into the UFC. Dana White Contender Series and The Ultimate Fighter.
Mm-hmm.
You had the opportunity to go into, if I say some mistake, just please correct me. This is to make people aware of you. You had the opportunity to go into Contender Series in 2020, but you got COVID.
Yes, sir, I did. You want me to go into a little bit of that story?
Yeah.
So I was going through a really hard time in my life. I couldn't get a fight. There was peak pandemic. COVID was running rampant. The UFC was actually at the time occupying 2 hotels on the by Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. And I remember I was homeless. I had a car broken down. I was living with a coach at the time. I was having a real hard time. No money, no savings. And I got called on short notice, about 4 weeks notice for the Contender Series back in November of 2020. And I had a really good opponent. I was really excited for the opportunity. And there's a whole process when you get out there, at least in the beginning when you get on the Contender Series, right? So
what's the process like?
Well, back then they had a lot of COVID protocol, yeah, right? So I took a COVID test on Zoom before flying out to Vegas, which I had to ship back to them. It's like same day shipping, right? And you have to take it on Zoom in front of like a UFC executive or UFC whatever staff member.
So they know it's your saliva.
Yeah, they know, you're doing the nose swab, everything like that, exactly. So I did that. The first one came back negative. I was able to fly out to Vegas, right? Originally, I was supposed to go out there for 4 days, then fly back to Miami for 2 or 3 days, and then go back the last couple of days for fight week, right? Which was like the fight week process, 3 days out from the fight. So my management at the time was able to arrange that I would stay in Vegas for 10 days straight. So after the Zoom test, I finally flew out to Vegas. I was set to be out there for 10 days. Like I said, the UFC occupied 2 hotels, the Courtyard Marriott and the Residence Inn. So the first 4 days or 5 days, I was in the Courtyard for the filming of the process of the Apex. They do all your little photo shoots, your interviews for the Contender Series, for your promos and whatnot. And then about 5 days in or 6 days in, you go the next few days, you check into the next hotel. So they tested me on Zoom, and when I checked into the Courtyard, and then when I was checking in for fight week, they tested me again at the Residence. And unfortunately, like usually when they test you, no news is good news, right? If they don't call you, that means you're good. But I fucking wake up the next morning after a 24-hour quarantine, and they fucking called me, man. And they called me.
Positive. Yeah,
I was heartbroken. I stayed an extra day cutting weight. My management was able to convince them to retest me. Still came back positive.
So if you were cutting weight, this was how much time before the actual fight?
This was like 2 days before the fight. This was
so
like
you did a whole camp.
I didn't even do a whole camp. I was actually having a really rough weight cut. The thing is with me is I train year round, so I'm never really out of shape. But I was heavy. You know what I mean? Going into this 4 weeks out, being 185 pounds, having to make 155.
So you're a lightweight.
Yeah, I'm a lightweight.
So you fight at 155 and you were 180 something.
Yeah, I was walking around like 185. Before I got injured, my metabolism was so messed up from all the weight cuts to 145 because I used to fight at 145. So 55 was new to me, but like I don't know if it was something wrong with my hormones or my metabolism, but I would hold on to weight like really, really hard. So I had a rough weight cut, and I was cutting weight through all this process. I went through all the process. And you understand, like, to get into the UFC where I was at, that's a huge opportunity, especially the way my life was. I feel like I was in a form of rock bottom.
You know what? I think that Contender Series, this is where I was going with my intro. There are 2 ways, Contender Series or The Ultimate Fighter. I think, I previously to Tough 31 this season of The
Yes.
Ultimate Fighter, I thought that Dana White Contender Series was the way to go.
Oof.
But it couldn't have turned out better for you because obviously it didn't pan out because you got COVID. And you got this opportunity. And I'm sure the ratings are the highest they've been in more than a decade because Conor McGregor is one of the coaches.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are two teams, the prospects versus the veterans.
Mm-hmm.
Conor McGregor is the coach of the prospects.
Yeah.
And you are in team Conor McGregor. So before we get into this season, this was a huge heartbreak, the Dana White Contender Series. What happened after that? And how did you get into Tough Season 31?
So after that happened, this was November, right? So after the COVID cleared, I had a really hard time finding opponents. You know what I mean? I was supposed to be on Contender Series, and like with COVID and everything happened, people don't want to travel. Plus, like I'm a good fighter. You know, there's a lot of guys are trying to protect their records, and I'm not really an easy fight for anybody in the regional scene. So I had a hard time finding opponents. A lot of people were saying no. I finally was able to get a good opponent. This older guy, I forgot his name. His name was Nico something, Hawaiian guy. He was like top 3 in Hawaii, really good fighter. And he was going to come out, and I was going to fight in February. I finally was able to get a fight. And then 2 weeks before that fight, I tore my ACL.
This was Titan FC.
Yeah, for the Titan FC belt. Because we actually had talked, my management had talked to Sean Shelby, and because I got booked off the Contender Series because of COVID, they said, hey, listen, if he wins this title fight, we'll sign him. This is his second opportunity. So this was kind of like my contender fight, you know? But unfortunately, I tore my ACL. I went through a lot of low lows. I was homeless at one point, hopping on couches with friends. You know what I mean? Didn't have any money, have any savings. I was able to. My coach helped me get a car, like a little like hoopty car, to kind of get me around. But it was a lot of hard times. I was partying and doing things out of character because I couldn't do what I love. I can't train. I can't work. I can't do nothing. You know?
Depressed.
Yeah, I was so depressed. I was going through so much, and luckily I got really into coaching. So I spent a lot of time coaching, cornering fights, traveling with fighters, working.
Have you ever coached or been in a corner in a UFC bout?
Not for a UFC bout. Actually, funny story is my boy Ronnie Lawrence, who actually fights next weekend at the Apex. Yeah, really good fighter. He's 2-1 in the UFC now. He was sick llast fight, so you could argue that he could be 3-0. You know, but I was supposed to go with him, but like I said, I was doing dumb shit, and I went to a music festival the week before. And the first one after COVID, and I go to Vegas again. I spent my whole day traveling to Vegas. Get to Vegas, they tested me positive for COVID again.
What?
But it's okay though. I mean, it's not okay because my boy didn't get to fight, but it wasn't because of me. It was because he had this thing. He had staph going into the fight, and his whole body like cramped up, so he wasn't able to fight. But coincidentally, I got COVID again. But I have cornered pretty big, high-profile fights. I actually was cornering my boy Delano Taylor in the PFL finals at MSG.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, and I also was in his corner in Wales when he knocked out Rory McDonald. I was in the corner against Rory for the retirement fight. So, that was crazy, too.
So, how do you get into The Ultimate Fighter?
Well,
so where we left off is you had a second opportunity.
Yeah.
You were gonna have scouts, I guess, in a championship fight at Titan FC. It didn't pan out. You tore your ACL, but eventually you become a champion there, right?
Yeah. I took all this
You're
time
a champion
off.
right now.
Technically, yeah, you can say that. I mean, I'm waiting for the UFC right now. I'm waiting for the show to finish airing. We're gonna see what's gonna happen from there. But as of now, I am still technically the Titan champ. So in April, about a year later, I was supposed to fight February. So about February next year, I had a fight booked. Unfortunately, the fight got pushed back to April. So April 2022, I was able to finally fight for the Titan belt. They wanted to give me a tune-up fight, right? A fight to kind of get my feet wet again after ring rust, but I was very adamant that I didn't want that. You know, I felt
you didn't want a tune-up fight?
Absolutely not. I felt like I'm not someone who believes in ring rust. You know what I mean? I'm someone who believes that if you're working and you're in your craft, and plus, like I said, I spent a lot of time coaching. So
explain what a tune-up fight is.
Like a tune-up fight, they wanted to give me a lesser opponent to kind of get me in the cage again, to get the ring rust off, to make me feel more comfortable again.
You know who I think needs a tune-up fight? Conor McGregor.
Chandler's a perfect tune-up fight.
You think?
Absolutely, I think so.
Didn't you train with Chandler in Killcliff?
Yeah, I have trained with Chandler.
Okay. So you trained with Chandler, and you are saying right here that you think that Chandler is a good tune-up fight for Conor McGregor.
I think matchup-wise, it's the perfect fight for him to come back to.
How come?
Well, the thing is with Chandler's a hard worker. Chandler is a hard worker, and he's a dog, and he goes after you. You know what I mean? And I think that can win you a lot of fights. But if you count skill for skill and technique for technique, I don't really think Conor or Chandler's on the level that Conor is. You know, I've trained with both. I got to spar with Conor. I haven't really got to spar hard with Chandler because Chandler kind of never would let me. You know, I moved around with him a little bit, but I kind of see the technique difference, and I see the size difference, and I see the accuracy, the precision, the technique, and the mind and the IQ that Conor has, and I really don't think it's a fight that's made for Chandler. I think it's a perfect fight for Conor to knock him out. I think it's the perfect fight to come back. I think it's a great matchup. Like I said, Chandler's a tough guy, but he's a bomber. Like, think about it. Like, when have you seen Chandler outstrike somebody technically? Like, have you ever seen him like pick someone apart or like use a good jab or like he's more of a bomber, right? He comes at you aggressively, and sometimes in a fight, the skilled guy doesn't always win. You can definitely win like that. He's not a bad fighter.
What's his last victory?
His last victory, he lost his last one to Dustin.
I know that.
Tony Ferguson.
Oh, yeah, with a kick.
With a Hail Mary kick that like he never throws. You know what I mean? Even he said it himself, I never throw that.
That was an insane knockout.
Yeah, it was sick. But if you look at the fight, you could argue he was losing the fight. Tony was starting to piece him up, starting to get his rhythm. Chandler won the end of the round with the takedown and ground and pound, but like it wasn't like a landslide victory, you know?
So striking, obviously, Conor is far superior than Chandler.
Yeah, way longer, really good with distance.
What would happen? What edge does Chandler have in a fight with Conor McGregor, in your opinion?
I think with the wrestling, but as far as the wrestling is concerned, what good is wrestling? You can dictate where a fight goes. I mean, that's good. I mean, you can dictate if you want to strike. You can dictate if you want to go to the ground. But if Chandler takes you down, like, he doesn't really have a great jiu-jitsu game. So, like, are you going to hold Conor down? Like, you know what I mean? What, you're just going to lay on him? He's going to hit you from the bottom. He's going to work his way up, and eventually he's going to make you pay for it. You know, he did the same. I think it's a very similar fight to the Mendez fight. And look what happened there.
Yeah. What did you think? I'm sure you saw this weekend's Oliveira fight.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about Charles Oliveira?
That dude is a monster. That dude is an absolute animal. But, you know, I would like to see him go 5 rounds. You know, I think the way he fights is he's a killer, you know? Okay. Like, he's a guy that goes after you, and that's how you should fight. I like that he's not over here trying to score points, so he's going after you from bell to bell, whether it's submissions, whether it be on the feet. Like, Dariush took him down and beat him up a little bit on the ground, right?
But he was so elusive.
Oh, man.
In the bottom.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like, wow, this guy is super sharp.
And very active, right? Like, even though if he gets hit, like, he's still working. He's still active. He's still throwing up submissions. He's still creating angles. And then eventually, look what happened. He got the space to stand up. And when he stood up, he made him pay. You know, he went right after him. It wasn't like he stood up and was like, oh, I've been on bottom. Let me take a break. No, he got up and went right after Dariush. And I thought that was amazing. I like seeing guys that fight like that. I'm definitely taking a page out of his book. You know, I feel like I always try to go for it, but that's like the perfect example of how you should fight, you know?
You're a striker, right?
Yeah.
What's your, like, discipline? Kickboxing?
Well, this is 2023, my man. I don't really like to think like kickboxing, Muay Thai, karate.
But how did you get into it?
Oh, when I got into it, I mean, I actually started with jiu-jitsu when I was like 17, and my coach was a kickboxer. Actually, he was a striker, a kickboxer training under my current coach now. So I trained with another coach for like my first year of training, and like he didn't really teach me too much technique. He kind of just taught me how to be tough and used to beat my ass all the time. But yeah, I started with jiu-jitsu, and then I hurt my knees. I had really bad bursitis in my knees, so I really got into striking. I felt like I liked it more. I had more of a mind for it. I would like kind of make up techniques in my head and like kind of figure things out on my own. It was just what I took to better. You know, some people take to jiu-jitsu better, some people take to that better. Yeah, I would say Muay Thai, I guess, you know?
I ask you because Boricuas are strikers. I mean, we haven't done anything big in MMA, I think, maybe.
Not yet.
But we're great boxers.
Yeah.
So culturally, our sport is boxing, and we have great champions in boxing. So it doesn't surprise me that you took up. You're a great striker.
Yeah.
But culturally, Boricuas tend to go the boxing route. How did you end up in a jiu-jitsu gym at 17?
Well, when I started training, I feel like
you're 27 right now.
27, yeah.
So you've been 10 years in the game.
Yeah. So I feel like when I started training, it was more like so how I got into it was this. Like, I used to play other sports. I played basketball. Basketball was like my first love, right? But when I got a little older, I got to like 14 years old, I was going to start to play AAU, and like, dude, you got kids that are like fucking 14 years old, and they're like 6'6" and dunking. I was undersized. I was under athletic. Yeah, you know what I mean? I didn't have coaches. I didn't have money to get private coaches, or like I didn't have the speed or physical attributes to be playing. So it was very discouraging. Plus, my grades weren't doing so good. My mom would really want to let me play. So eventually I fell off from that. But I found in my life I was never able to stick to anything. I feel like I had no direction. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, nothing like that. And I had a friend in high school. I used to hang out outside in my house. I would skip school. I'd wait for my mom to go to work.
What state is this?
It's in Florida, South Florida. So I was going to Whitten Rogers Alternative School because I was just not going to school, skipping class, getting into trouble.
Drugs?
Yeah, just doing drugs, pills, smoking, psychedelics, doing all type of shit. And I remember I was sitting in my house one day when my mom was at work. So what I would do is I would go to the bus stop. I'd wait for at 7 o'clock. I'd wait till 9 o'clock for my mom to go to work, and then I'd go home and I'd just chill at the house all day. I'd invite friends over. We'd smoke. We'd have a little party, little get-togethers, drinking, doing our shit. But one day I had a friend that was training at Wagner Rocha Martial Arts, which was down the street from my house at the time, one in Plantation. And we were hanging out, and he was getting really into UFC. He had started just doing classes, doing jiu-jitsu classes. White belt, super hype on his new thing he's doing. And he was showing me all different fighters, like fight highlights. John Jones, Anthony Pettis.
You weren't aware of UFC?
I mean, I was aware of what it was, but I didn't really understand it. I was just kind of I would just see here and there, oh, that's pretty cool, but it never caught my eye. You know, I was more into basketball. I like boxing. I like things like that. But I was just a scrappy kid. I was just a scrappy, rough, around the edges personality. I used to also have problems expressing myself, so I'd express myself with aggression because I just didn't know how to communicate or socialize.
Were you
well.
a fighter in school?
Yeah, I was. Not as much as you would think, but I did here and there because I had a big-ass mouth. So, and I still have a big-ass mouth, as you can see on The Ultimate Fighter.
Okay. Yeah.
So I get...
Fuck Roosevelt Roberts.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, but I got myself... I get myself into trouble, man, and I feel like I was watching all these guys, and then he showed me one guy that stood out to me was Nick Diaz. Not Nate Diaz, Nick Diaz, the older brother.
He was in what season? He was in The Ultimate Fighter, right?
He was not. That's Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz, the one that fought Conor, that's a little more famous now. Okay. Nick was the older brother, and his Strike Force run was fucking legendary. Super entertaining guy. I saw him talking shit, flicking dudes off, saying just being himself. And I feel like with my personality, I had a hard time getting along with people because of that. So one thing I saw about MMA is no matter what kind of personality you are, who you are, you're gonna find people that are gonna attract you, and I feel like that inspired me. Seeing his upbringing, seeing his heart, he didn't like cameras. You know what I mean? He had a hard time dealing with people. You know what I mean? He was
bad talkers as well.
Yeah, he was flicking people off in fights. He was emotional, and I'm emotional. I get emotional, and I feel like I lack emotional intelligence sometimes. So I'm if this guy can do that, I can do that shit. So I started going to the gym. I started training 2-3 days a week. Eventually,
so Nick Diaz was your first guy.
My first inspiration, for sure. And
cool.
Yeah, and if you watch some of my fights, you'll see little hints of fighting like that. A lot of volume striking, high volume combinations. If you ever see my highlights, you see I do a lot of things similar. And I'm a southpaw like he is. I'm left-handed as well. So that plays a factor in it too. But after training 3 days a week, there was one day, because I used to day drink and do a bunch of dumb shit with my friends. I was still young. I was 17. I don't know any better. I just want to party and hang out, right? So one day I took a tab of acid, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I was so skinny, and I saw myself, my face was broken out, and I'm just looking at myself, and I just wasn't happy with what I was. And I'm what am I doing with my life? You know what I mean? I'm not gonna go to college. My grades aren't good enough. You know what I mean? I haven't applied to anything. I have no idea what career I want to major in.
Basketball ain't happening.
Basketball ain't happening. You know what I mean? Maybe if I take this fighting shit seriously, I can do something with it. You know? And I never thought it'd get this far, but I'm fuck it. Maybe this will straighten me out. Maybe I need to not quit something. I need to stay consistent. I'm missing training to go party with my friends and do drugs and dumb shit that's not good for my life. Let me commit to this. And after that, I quit smoking, drinking. I didn't do anything for 2 years. You know what I mean? That was it. And then I got into it 2 to 3 days, turned to 4, turned to 5, turned to 6. And eventually, once I graduated, I was training pretty much full time.
Okay. So when did you become aware that, okay, I think I'm pretty good at this? Did you have a good amateur career?
I didn't. At one point, I was actually 3-4 as an amateur, but I had that first fight. I remember I was 18 years old. I was still in high school, and I fought this guy that was 23 years old. And,
how scary? Tell me about that fight. Your emotion. How are you coming into this first fight?
Well, it's crazy because when I started training, I'm obviously this loudmouth, cocky, stupid kid, And in my mind, I'm I'm going to fight eventually. This is what I want to do. I'm going to fight eventually. And then one day, 2 weeks, on 2 weeks' notice, my jiu-jitsu coach comes in. He's like, hey, my guy's looking for fighters. Do you want to fight? And I'm like, whoa, it's real now. Now I actually have to do this. I'm really about to step in a cage. And I said yes, it was no problem, right? I really didn't understand what I was getting myself into. I mean, I understand what fighting is, but I didn't have that true respect for how dangerous and how crazy it is to put yourself on the line like that every time.
You know what? Now that you say this, I remember in last Nick Diaz's fight was against Crawford. Robbie Crawford.
Oh, Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler. Yeah, Robbie Lawler.
And I remember on the media he did, like he said that I hate this. This shit is scary. Like he really opened up. And I remember thinking like, well, if he's saying this, bro, it's scary for everyone.
Absolutely. He's one of the most savage guys in the history. I actually I've had the pleasure of training with him as well and sparring with him too. And like, he's nasty. Robbie hits super hard, but he's also a really good dude, a really down-to-earth, really nice guy, very helpful to people, very polite. You know, and it's crazy how much of a savage he is too, right?
So you said yes, and how did that first fight go about?
Well, I won by spinning back fist. I got a TKO, you know, but it was crazy because my old coach really didn't know shit, man. Like he gave me pre-workout before the fight. Like I don't know if you've ever been to a rules meeting for a fight, but they tell you shouldn't have any energy drinks or anything like that going in because you can have a heart attack. So because like all the adrenaline and all the anxiety will build up on you, and you have a lot of caffeine in you, your heart rate goes out of control. So
you are supposed to just shadow box and...
No, you like just don't take supplements before you go. Like you warm up and stuff, yeah. But I had like pre-workout and like he was giving me a whole bunch of shit before I went in there. So my heart was like pounding out of my chest. Like it was in the second round I finished him. But I remember just going crazy on him. Like when you have your first fight, it's technique out the window, right? You know what I mean? You're going into fight or flight. I get to the venue, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm really about to do this. I didn't think I'd be so nervous. You know, I played basketball games. I've competed in sports before. But there's no type of nerves or anything that can prepare you for that first fight. You know, all you got to do is just, like I tell my fighters now, like if you're scared, like just let it happen. Like it's like jumping into cold water. You just jump in. You know what I mean? You just let it happen. And man, I remember that. And I got to this. I remember when the second round was about to hit, we were in the corner in between rounds and I couldn't even feel my legs. Like everything was going numb. And I was so burnt out from an adrenaline dump. And luckily I was able to get that finish in that second round. But once I got that winner's high, I teared up because I'm like, my thing is I don't feel like I've ever accomplished anything in my life. So I got a sense of accomplishment and purpose that I never felt in my life. And from there, that was the moment I was addicted. And whether I was winning or losing, I just wanted to keep it going. I'm like, I'm going to keep doing this until I'm successful, you know?
There's nothing cooler than watching a badass fighter cry. Because it's the only instance, well, not the only, but it's one of the rare occasions where you're like, yeah,
he's human.
I would cry. Like, it's super, I guess it's super emotional. Not only like I finally achieved something, more like I was in a cage with another man and I survived.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I just did 8 weeks of hell. My weight cut was a nightmare. And finally, this is all over. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to think about fighting maybe for 1 week.
Yeah.
It must be, obviously I'm not a fighter, but I always admire the courage it takes.
Yeah, it definitely is. My coach calls it the 1%. You know what I mean? If you compete in this sport, then you're the 1% to do it. And I think it's important for people to do it if they can do it. People train, I think they should at least try it once, you know? I don't think everyone should have the goal. Like when I tell like regular hobbyists, like you shouldn't have to put this expectation, because especially as men, we put this expectation, like when we're training and stuff, like we have to fight. We got to commit to this full time because like we're not a man if we do that. Like that's not what it is. Martial arts is a personal journey. You know what I mean? And I feel like when you're in a fight or you're in that controlled setting, it's like you can't really hide who you are in there. You know, if you're scared, it's gonna show. You know what I mean? You're gonna see the way a guy fights. I've seen guys talk a bunch of shit and go in there and fight, and they just run around the cage the whole time. You know what I mean? Like you can't hide who you are in there. If you're either gonna go or you're not. You know, and I feel like it helps you learn a lot about yourself and what you can handle.
Okay.
As a man.
Okay, tell me about The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
How did it happen?
So after I defended my belt, I was getting scouted. You know, this is a big season. This was kind of like they weren't sure what theme they were gonna do. It was prospects versus vets ultimately, but they didn't know whether they were gonna go for the champions theme again, like they did with the 125ers, going around for the champions, going for undefeated guys. So I think like the vets made sense because it was a theme they'd never done before. But they were scouting a bunch of people. When I got to Vegas, there was actually 36 people that were there trying out for the Ultimate Fighter. I got called January 1st, you know what I mean? A lot earlier than a lot of other people did because I was already a regional champion. I've been kind of on a tear. And then plus, I got snubbed a couple times, you know, getting injured, having to be on Contender. So it only made sense to give me a shot, you know. Plus my personality, like I'm a big mouth talker, you know what I mean? I have an exciting fighting style. I think even my friends, my family, my coach is like, yo, you're like the perfect fit for that show with your big ass mouth. You know what I mean? So like, I thought it was a good fit. When I went to Vegas, we spent the first 2 weeks in suspense because when I did my interview on Zoom, they interview you on Zoom to like talk to you and feel you out, the producers, right? And they liked me. They said, oh, you're in, right? But I get to Vegas. This is a crazy story. So I get to Vegas. The first 2 weeks we're in the hotel. We're not even allowed to leave our room. We can't train. We can't do nothing. We're only allowed to go to the gym for 1 hour when we call and schedule it. And it's only treadmill, bike, elliptical. No training, no grappling, no pad work. We're keeping our weight down.
Protecting for injuries?
Yeah, that or COVID, I guess, I think. But they just have different protocols. They've done that for every season. It's weird. I don't know, at least since COVID, right? But yeah, so that happened, and they were making us do media. Like, we were going to the Apex. We were doing, like, little interviews, like some of the interviews I posted as well. We were doing photo shoots, things like that, but nothing with jerseys, nothing with teams. They was like, oh, what do you think about, how do you feel about being the Ultimate Fighter? Like, what do you think is going to be the challenge? They were asking us questions like we were in. And then I find out that there's 36 people, and they're cutting people. They had been cutting people. I was told I was going to be on, but a lot of other people were told they were going to be on too, but they weren't on. They didn't get on. So I remember the day that they picked, there was a day they took our phones away, right? One of the producers, Cole, comes into my room and he tells me, hey, listen, man, you know, a lot of things came up. I had to talk to the powers that be. Unfortunately, you're not going to be on the show.
Whoa.
Came into the room and told me, you're not going to be on the show. And I was like, my jaw dropped. Like, I just spent 2 weeks in this hotel. You know what I mean? I've dropped everything in my life. I quit my job back home. I was working as a server and I quit my job. I was just all fucked up. I was like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do about making money? Like, I need, like, what the hell? Like, I finally got an opportunity and I'm snubbed again. And I swear to God, he left the room and I was crying. I was sitting there, just bawling. I called my coach. I called my mom. I was like, hey, like, they said this. And then I hung up the phone. I remember I was sitting on the floor and I just said a prayer. I'm just like, God, listen, like, I'm not upset with this. I appreciate everything you do. If you have a plan, just put me in the right position. I know I know everything happens for a reason. I'm ready for the next step. I said, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. Chilled out. And I sat there, and 5 minutes later, the producer comes back in. And he tells me, hey, listen, like, you deserve to be on the show. I went and stood up for you. I went to bat for you. You're going to be on the show. 5 minutes later, bro. It was fucking crazy. I swear that's exactly what happened. And then I called my coach. I'm like, Coach, never mind. They're like, you scared me. Like, I called my manager. My manager's already emailing Sean Shelby, like, yo, if you have any 55 openings, like, my boy's already in Vegas on wait. Like, let's go. You know what I mean? And, like, it was crazy how, like, things were going. And, like, it was just so hectic. And then that same day, they said, okay, just tell your loved ones everything was going on, and we'll come and take your stuff. They took my phone. They took my clothes with branding on them, and then we went to the house. And, well, we didn't go to the house. We went straight to the Apex to pick the teams. So, yeah.
Oh, so that's episode 1.
Yeah, episode 1. That same day that I was freaking the fuck out.
So when do you learn that Conor is going to be in the show?
We knew, like, about a week ahead, like, maybe a week ahead. Yeah, about a week ahead. Or, like, a few days ahead, to be honest.
Because if you're 27 and you got in the sport 10 years ago...
He's the man.
He's your hero.
Yeah, one of them, for sure.
Like, isn't that crazy? All of a sudden, I'm here with fucking Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
And I'm in his team.
Yeah, wild. It's like God put me in that position. Like, I went through all that shit to be here.
And you're a lightweight.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm a southpaw, like him. So it's, like, literally, like, the best scenario, you know? Because I talked to Henry Hoof, and Henry Hoof was trying to get Chandler to pick me because we found out Chandler was going to be there. Because I found out he was going to be a coach before I left for Vegas. And he said, yeah, we're going to tell Chandler to pick you, right? But my thing is, I didn't want to be picked by Chandler. Like, you know what I mean?
What's your beef with Chandler?
Dude, he's just I haven't had many interactions with him.
He seems like such a cool guy.
Yeah, you think that until
he seems cooler than McGregor, in my opinion.
Yeah, he seems like he's humble and stuff, right? Dude acts like he's too big for everybody, bro. I feel like a lot of people don't like him. They're not gonna say it, you know, because the guy's got power and he's whatever. But a lot of people don't like him. Every interaction I've had with him has been negative. Like, he talks about me like he knows me so well. Like, he was talking about me in his podcast after the interaction with Roosevelt and stuff. And, like, I'm just like, bro, like, I asked you to be your partner for the Poirier fight. I'm always trying to ask you to train. You don't want to train with me. And then I'm in the locker room joking with my friends. You're trying to tell me how to talk. Like, I asked you to train one time. He's like, you're not my teammate. Like, I've never even had, like, a full conversation with you. Like, you know me on zero personal level, and you're talking about me like you know everything about me, or like you know my personality, or like you know the things I say. You know what I mean? So it tells me that other people are telling him things about me, and he's just going off that. I don't know. I just don't think he's a good guy to me, and I feel like he acts like his shit don't stink, and he walks around with his chest all high and mighty like he's the fucking man. And I'll say you this, he's a good fighter, and he's a good fighter. He works hard. I like the message he puts out, but my personal encounters with him have always been negative, and I personally don't really like him. And I know he don't like me either, and that's okay. Not everybody gotta like me. I don't gotta like him. We coexist in the professional scene, and it is what it is, but
Landon,
I was happy I got picked by Conor, to be honest.
Landon, you're gonna be such a huge star.
Oh my God,
God.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about right now. This conversation is happening, and only 2 episodes have aired.
Yeah.
On the first episode, it was like a setup episode, but the fight at the end of that first episode, Roosevelt Roberts, the veteran, wins.
Yeah.
Like in 10 seconds.
Yeah, quick.
On the second episode, you have like a thing with him in the kitchen, in the home.
Yeah.
And I wrote you like, you're having a lot of screen time. This is great.
Absolutely.
How did that interaction begin? Because it's not on the show. Like they start putting it like at the middle of the conversation. What was happening there?
Well, it's TV, so of course they're gonna create narratives. You know what I mean? They're gonna show the beef. They're gonna show all the negative things that happen. Me, to be real, I respect Roosevelt. You know, when we first got in the house and we did our opening interviews before the teams were even picked, they said, or like when the teams got picked, they're like, okay, so who do you think in the house that you would like to fight first? And he was the first name I picked. They're not gonna show that though. He was the first name I picked. Also, Austin Hubbard was a name that I picked. You know what I mean? So I was like, yo, I think these guys would be the best matchup. To be honest, I felt like Roosevelt was one of the hardest fights in the house. Like if I were gonna fight him, it would have been one of the toughest fights. But you know what I mean? It's because of the matchup, the style matchup. He likes to strike, you know what I mean? He likes to box, he likes to throw hands, he comes at you aggressively. I thought it would have been a good matchup for me. I feel like I have a little more versatile striking than him, and I think it was a good matchup for me to win. But basically that day he was all on his high horse. He had just knocked out Nate. We were in the house chilling, and like, you know, I was telling congratulations to the red team, but I was talking my shit. I was saying like, I was making my own little motto, like red is dead, like because they were all wearing red jerseys. I mean, red is dead. We're coming for all y'all. So this
conversation is literally the day after his victory.
It's the day of his victory. That's the same night he just fought.
Oh, so he just came from the Apex.
He had just came from we had all just come from the Apex,
and
eating
you're shitting on his parade.
I didn't shit on his parade. I told him congratulations when he walked in the door. I was like, hey man, good shit, whatever, you know what I mean? Okay. But like, I was talking my shit. Like I'm being competitive, you know what I mean? Like I'm just telling you how it is. I'm saying like, if I say, oh, well, it's my job to show why the vets got cut, I'm saying that because I'm here to fight you. Like, I'm not here to be like this respectful, nice, goody-goody, kiss-ass guy. You know what I mean? Like, if you guys are possible opponents, I'm gonna be like that. Now, do I respect you as people and as fighters? Of course I do. No way. I'd be an idiot not to respect your skill set. You know what I mean? But I'm coming with confidence. I'm not afraid to eat my words. So I'm gonna say what I want to say.
What did you think was gonna happen before that first fight? What was the name of your teammate that lost?
Oh, Nate Gentleman.
Well, how do you think it was gonna turn out before the fight?
I knew Roosevelt was one, like I said, one of the toughest fights in the house. And two, I also knew that Roosevelt had a huge striking edge because I had trained with Nate before as well. And I had a feeling that was going to happen. On my confessionals, I rode with Nate. I said, hey, because Nate has a very good clinch. When he makes the fight dirty and ugly, he can shine. And he has good jiu-jitsu too. So he had a chance of winning. I'm not saying like, oh, Roosevelt's going to knock him out. But I'm saying is like, based on the style matchup with the way Nate holds his hands, with the way he strikes and the way Roosevelt strikes.
He's dangerous.
I felt like it was a dangerous fight for Nate.
And how do if you lose, you stay in the house?
You have to stay in the house.
Why?
It's just how it is, man. It's reality TV, brother.
Okay, and yeah, because it adds, it's another person that can bullshit. And
they want heartbreak. They want to see the agony. They want to see all that.
I have a production question. When you're beefing and having this moment with Roosevelt, it's like, after it happens, does a production guy come to you and say, good job, that was great, that's going to the show?
No.
Like, does production guide you into chaos?
They definitely like it. They show up because the necklaces that you see on the Ultimate Fighter that they're always wearing, they look little octagons here. Mm-hmm. We have a mic connected to our belt line, and it goes up our shirt and it turns into a necklace. So that necklace, there's a production team outside and a separate house outside, and they can hear absolutely everything we're saying. We're taking a shit, they can hear us fart. Okay. You know what I mean? Anything we do, they hear us all day. If we're in the kitchen without it, they tell us to go to our room and go get it. Like, we have to. We're under contract. We have to do it. So they hear absolutely everything. So you could be on the basketball court, like I was running my mouth about Jason Knight, right? And like I'll be on the basketball court, they'll be in the front of the house. They will run their asses around the whole house just to record you and get content on what you're saying, right? And it's a 24-hour staff. Like those cameras filming, that's not hidden cameras. Those are cameramen in the house all the time. Like it's pretty overwhelming. Like you have no space, no personal space. They're in your face all day long.
Do you like it?
You get used to it. I don't want to say I like it, but you get over it after a while. You know, in the beginning, you're nervous. You're trying to watch what you say, but eventually you just start talking shit and being yourself, and that's what they want.
How many days was the whole filming done?
We were in the house for 4 weeks, maybe 4.5 weeks.
Like, I'm not sure what you can say and what can't you say.
I can talk about the experience all I want. I can't tell you results. I can't tell you things that are going to pop up in the episode, but I can tell you the experience.
Every week in like viewership, like we have already seen 2 weeks. We've seen 2 days in real time. Like, is 2 days 2 weeks?
Okay.
Is 1 day one episode?
I don't know if I can say that part, but I can tell you, like, they made an episode off of each fight because they had to describe the fighter stories and whatnot, but all the fights were picked at once.
And do you know who you're fighing?
Yeah, it's on there, Jason Knight. I didn't know who I was fighting on day one. The first few days we were in the house, they didn't pick the fights. We were staying together, getting to know each other. Then about 3, they picked teams, and then we picked the matchups on Monday. So we picked teams on a Thursday, and we had Friday we trained, or Saturday we trained, and then I think then on Monday they picked the fights.
Jason the Kid.
Yeah, Jason Knight.
Okay, for people who aren't aware, I know I've said it before in this episode, but the theme of The Ultimate Fighter is veterans versus prospects.
Yes.
To me, that sounds like a horrible matchup.
Yeah, it's tough matchups, for sure.
Like, every time like a fight occurs in regular UFC between a more experienced fighter, like at least the commentators speak fondly of the edge that experience gives you.
Absolutely.
Did that reflect in the season, do you think?
I believe so, man. I think experience is a huge factor. You know, the more times you've been there, the more quick and more comfortable you are to make decisions in that real time when the adrenaline's pumping, when things are chaotic. So it definitely is a factor. Can I tell you whether it was a factor in the season exactly? I definitely can't. But I can tell you it definitely made it very interesting seeing guys that are hungry, a little more rambunctious, a little more hyped up against guys that have been there, lost it, and are trying to get it back. You know what I mean? It's hunger. They're both hungry, but it's just 2 different kinds of hungry. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could even see in our van rides, our driver's name was Angel, right? And our team, the prospect team, was fucking delinquents, talking shit in the van, yelling, singing songs, acting crazy, acting funny, cracking jokes. And apparently the veteran team was in the van, like, I'm sure they did it too, but they're more quiet, more serious. They're talking about more adult topics. Like, we're the immature ones, you know what I mean? Yeah. But we're hungry because we never got an opportunity.
Yeah, they already tasted the UFC.
Yeah, but you can't take that lightly because when you, like even Chandler said in his interview, you know what I mean? I didn't look at it like this at the time because I was talking my shit or whatever, but it's true. And I respect that about the veterans, is the fact that when you have something and you take it for granted and you have it taken away and you put it back in front of somebody and you give them the opportunity to get it back, it's the same amount of hunger as somebody who's never had it before, if not more. You know what I mean? So it definitely can play a factor in how you feel about your opportunity. You know, but realistically, everybody had the same hunger because we all understand what's on the line and we all understand how important this move is. But would I say it plays a factor? Possibly, for sure.
Okay, here I have on the screen, Jason Knight's record is 25. 20 victories, 5 losses. Your record is 7-1-1.
Yeah.
So, like, on paper, Jason Knight has you threefold.
Yes.
On
plus
experience.
Amateur fights. That doesn't include amateur fights. Those are real fights.
So, like, how awkward is it? Like, you two know you're gonna fight eventually in a couple of days. How's the mood when you cross by? You're in the same house.
That was one of the weirdest things for me. That was one of the weirdest things about the whole experience in the house, was having to coexist with people you're going to fight. And, like, realistically, like, you think in your head going into the house, like, I'm going to hate these guys. You know, I'm going to be dogging them out and be sizing them up all the time. And you do size them up, but you have respect for them.
How do you size someone up, like, from afar, or do you, like,
it's from
get
afar.
next to him in the refrigerator and literally...
Like, some moments are like that, but you have respect for them. You're living with them. You got to understand, you're eating together. Like, even guys from both teams were playing cards together, playing chess together. Like they show me and Roosevelt beefing, but they're not showing you the times we were playing basketball, or the times he made food and he shared it with me, or the times I had food and I shared it with him. Like, these are things, like, you know what I mean? Like, our personalities may clash, right? And we may not like each other the most, but we respect each other. You know, we're all looking for the same goal. We're all after the same thing. And that's what I was saying in the kitchen, you know what I mean? Now, the timing, after all the shit I was talking, I could understand why he was upset.
Yeah.
But realistically, that's just what it is. You know, I got a lot of respect for him. Actually, he was in Florida last week. On Monday, he hit me up to come train with me. Roosevelt, yes.
Wow.
He hit me up to come train with me because he's in town. I was wondering why he didn't go to Kill Cliff. That kind of threw me for a loop. but he's actually from Florida like me. He went to Miramar High School. We're from the same county. Like, you know what I mean? So we're kind of from the same areas. So our personality is like, I get him, you know what I mean? In a sense, you know? So he hit me up to come train, and I was like, hey, man, like, yeah, you can come train, whatever. He's like, yeah, boy, are you guys, I'm like, we're just sparring tomorrow. You can come drill today, we're grappling, but tomorrow we're sparring. And he's like, oh, well, I don't got gear. I just got grappling gear. I'm like, no, don't worry about it. I got my gear all sprayed off for you. And then the episode aired, and he kind of went ghost on me. So, like, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he feels something.
He had forgotten about it.
It is what it is, though, bro. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know what his energy is, but I have no problem with Roosevelt, especially after going through that experience. At the end of the house, we were chilling outside of the house, and, like, we talked to each other. We talked about each other's families. Like, we got to know each other. You know, like I said, we're not best friends, you feel me? But I got respect for Roosevelt, and I know he has some degree of respect for me, regardless of how much shit I be talking.
Okay. I need to ask you about Conor McGregor's aura. Like, how does it feel? We recorded a podcast earlier, and we were talking about his mascot thing in Miami.
He knocked out Bernie.
Yeah. What? How does it feel? Is he friendly outside of the camera? Is he intense 24/7? Well, tell me everything about Conor McGregor.
Well, he's when I first got there, I didn't think I'd be starstruck, you know, because I'm a fighter myself. You know, I look at this guy's in my weight class. I don't think I'm gonna fight Conor, but in my mind, I'm like, he's just a fighter like anybody else. You know what I mean? You got to think like that when you're in this sport. You can't think anyone's like a star above you or it's too much, because one day you might have to fight guys like that. Not Conor specifically, but I might have to fight guys like Conor, big stars, big stages. You know what I mean? I want to be ready for that. And I didn't think shit of it, and I knew Chandler already, so I wasn't worried about it. But when Conor walked in the room when they were picking teams, like, this is our first time seeing him, like, yo, like, that's actually Conor McGregor right here. That's crazy. Dressed to the T, you know, wearing a suit that's worth more than my whole fucking life. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I was really starstruck. And, like, I don't know if you saw in the video where they're picking teams. I know I look serious, but I was fucking shaking. I was like, oh, my God, like, this is Conor McGregor. And then I got picked his team, and I'm like, whoa. Like, things are getting real in my life right now. But when I first met him, I feel like he didn't really have any desire to get super close to us. You know, like, he was there for his brands, for his own promotion, things like that. But he's very authentic, brother, and he is very, very charismatic, and he is very intense. Like, he's not, like, intense like that all the time. He is a jokester. He jokes. He plays around. But the dude's obsessed with his craft. He's really as crazy as he is on TV. It's not a fucking act. Like,
what like, did he give you? I would assume that he is a guy who can tell you, like, mind-blowing tips and tricks. Is that a reality, or is it more heart than anything else?
It's definitely technique and skill. But, you know, it was great because, like, he told me a lot of things that my coaches have already told me. You know, he's a very knowledgeable striker, a knowledgeable fighter, very good technique. But he taught me a little tricks, and not only does it help him telling you, but when you get to see the way he moves and the way his mechanics are and the way he moves in his stance and, like, his balance, his athleticism, like, you kind of see how it should be done. You know what I mean? So me being a southpaw and being a striker myself, I kind of understood what he was doing. So it kind of helped me add things to my game and different concepts. But he'll put you on game on a lot of things in the mental. And it's the best thing is seeing that a superstar of that caliber is human. You know, he still gets nervous. He still freaks out a little bit. He talks about it. Like, you know what I mean? He talks about, like, a lot of things go through his mind when he's walking. Like, he does have supreme confidence, though. Don't get it twisted. That doesn't mean he's not confident. Like,
ever since we saw him talking to Ryan Garcia, did you see that viral clip after his loss? After Ryan Garcia's loss,
to Tank, right?
There was, like, this viral clip of Conor pumping him up after the loss. They're like, you know what? I don't remember what, but we saw, like, enthused Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
Like a fan Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
And I've seen some clips, or some footage rather, of the Ultimate Fighter where you see that guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, if you're nervous, just ride with that. Like, just embrace your feeling and go with the flow of whatever you're feeling. And I love that.
You know, it's funny. I was talking about this with somebody else. When I came back from Vegas, I've come back so much different. Like, I came back, like, mentally so much different. I don't really, like I said, I'm not really a full-time coach, I feel, because I can't commit to that because I'm an active fighter. But I have a couple guys I corner and coach, and I used to be in the corner with them in the back, like, oh, relax, take your time, get settled in, whatever. Now, like, my mentality is like a whole 180. Like, whenever they're about to go fight and they're freaking out, I'm like, fuck it. Go work for your win. I don't give a fuck. Go get tired. You know what I mean? Let yourself be nervous. Let yourself be scared. Take it all in. Just go get it. Like, whatever. You know what I mean? I used to be like, oh, you know, tranquilo, calm down, relax, take it easy. Now I'm just like...
Who's like a dream coach?
For me?
Yeah.
My coach right now. I think I have one of the best coaches
What's
in the world
his
right now. Roger Crawl. He actually was Amanda Nunez coach. He was actually in Vancouver with her over the weekend. Yeah.
Congrats to him.
Yeah, but he's been her coach pretty much her whole career, like except like the last few fights, everything after the Rousey fight. I think he was the coach for both Valentina fights. He was the coach for the Rousey fight. He was the coach for the Misha Tate fight. And the last few fights she lost because she was at not because she was at American Top Team, but like she kind of fell off with the way her training camps are going and the organization and making money and like, you know, falling off. And then once she lost the first Juliana fight, she went back to my coach.
Well, speaking of coaches, how come you're not on Killcliff anymore? Explain to what's Killcliff.
Killcliff Fight Club. It's a big gym where Gilbert Burns trains, Kamaru Usman, all these guys. Great team, to be honest. I really did like my team. I like it. But I feel like just things fell off, man. I liked it when it was a little smaller. When it was Hard Knocks 365, the energy was better. There was more camaraderie. Now there's a lot of random guys coming in and out of the gym. There's all these dumb rules, like you can't train here. If you can't go train somewhere else if you train here. But like we're all paying to train there, so I don't understand why they're telling me I can't where I can and can't train. Like I'm a grown man, you know what I'm saying? And plus, like my head coach Roger Crawl has been my coach since day one. So I feel like being with him and going to Killcliff, because my coach had this thing, he had a bad taste in his mouth about fighters. Like fighters are greedy, fighters are selfish, fighters are ungrateful. You know what I mean? They'll take and never give anything back, right? Well, my coach, obviously, I don't have the finance to want to pay him like I want to yet. You know, I'm not in the UFC yet. I'm not making big money. I definitely will repay the favor when it's time, but I'm an investment, you know what I mean? So I clean the mats, I clean the gym, I help with the amateur fighters. Whenever he needs something, I do it. Whenever he needs a class covered, I do it for free. You know, I pay my dues the way I can, right? But he never really wanted a fight team. So he would send me because I felt I was his higher level guys in a little small martial arts school. Like, I can't really do much. I need guys to push me. I need guys to spar with. I need guys to train with. So I trained at Killcliff. I went there actually because I used to train American Top Team. And because really? he was originally one of the head striking coaches at American Top Team in Coconut Creek. And he's the owner of American Top Team Sunrise. So I was training at American Top Team, and that gym is huge. Like, there's so many people in there. You're never going to get any learning. You're never going to get real coaching. It's all, unless you're like in the UFC, like you're Dustin Poirier or something, then you got Mike Brown, and you got guys giving you private training. But I feel like I needed a lot more to learn, right? So I would go back and forth between those gyms. I started to not really like the vibe at ATT. People trying to hurt you, too big of a gym, like just bad etiquette. Like the coaches are talking trash about fighters at the time when I was there. Laborio left. So I was watching Anatomy of a Fighter. I don't know if you ever seen Anatomy of a Fighter, Will Harris's documentaries. And I was watching him back when he was doing Hard Knocks.
I love him.
Yeah, when he first started, like the Hard Knocks 365 documentaries. I saw Michael Chandler. I saw Nick Lentz. I saw Robbie Lawler was over there.
He's into the Dagestanis now, right?
Now he is, with Khabib and stuff like that and AKA guys. But he's everywhere, just wherever you can get the best content, right? So I saw that, and I saw the energy of the room and the interviews and Henry Hoof speaking and all this. And I'm like, man, like this is really good vibes. Like these people are really working hard. There's good brotherhood in this gym. You know what I mean? Everyone's got a common goal. They're grinding. They're sweating. No AC in the gym. Grinding hard. Sparring safe. I don't see a lot of guys getting injured. I was seeing guys get staff at ATT getting injured. Like it was crazy. So I went over there, but I didn't want to leave my coach. Even though my coach was the head coach at one of the head coaches at ATT, he stopped going to Coconut Creek and just kept his school. Because American Top Team Sunrise was like the first ATT outside of Coconut Creek, like franchisee. So he didn't pay for the name. So even though he wasn't at Coconut Creek, he still had his ATT school. So I would go there, and then I would go to Hard Knocks 365, which eventually they got a sponsorship deal, which turned into Sanford, and we got the new gym. And now we still have the same gym, but they changed it to Killcliff, so now the mats are all black and gold. They got sponsorship deals, yeah. So I feel like when it was Hard Knocks and there wasn't all those sponsors and it wasn't so big, the grind was better. It felt more genuine. People were helpful. People were more team friendly. Now it's like I feel like it's become a money gym, and there's like a lot of sponsorship deals, and like I don't know. I feel like the coaches have been condescending because Roger's my head coach. They act like I'm not part of the team, but I've done a lot for the team. Like, I feel like I pay my gym fee. I win fights. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I help fighters with training camps. I've helped Nick Lentz. I've helped Adam Borix. I've helped everyone else that needed help with fights. My boy Evan Elder. Like, you know what I mean? I've been there for my team, and I come in there, I work hard, and head down. And over here, Chandler's in his podcast saying, like, oh, Landon talks the most in the gym. I'm like, bro, I don't talk to any of you. Like, when I'm in the gym, I talk to, like, maybe 5 people in there.
So I have a fan question. Were you... When Gilbert Burns fought Khamzat Chimaev, was he training in Killcliff?
Yeah, for sure.
And were you there?
Yeah, I was there.
To me, I remember I hate Khamzat Chimaev, but I can't miss a fight.
Can't deny his skills, bro.
Yeah,
He's a good guy.
He is insane. I went to that fight in Jacksonville, and I remember on those weeks prior to the fight, it went viral, like Gilbert Burns training. Like there's like a 15-minute no cuts video of his training, and I was like, this guy Gilbert Burns is an animal.
He is, bro. He won that fight. I think.
Yeah, I think he won as well.
For sure. And like Gilbert's a grinder, man. Gilbert's a tough motherfucker. I love my teammates. Like
He looks friendly as fuck.
Oh, he's a great guy. He's so nice. He's helpful to everybody. He's good energy. He's good vibes. You know what I mean? He's not condescending to anybody. He'll train with anybody. He's a great guy and a damn good fighter. Like mentally, he's a dog. He don't quit. Like look at the Bilal fight. He popped his shoulder in that first round and went 5 rounds like that. And look at how short a gap between fights. And look at the short of a gap between fights. Like he's fighting all the time. Before he got his big break in the UFC, before he moved up to 70 and went on his run, he was like doing Polaris and doing like fight to wins and doing all type of grappling tournaments, doing grappling matches in cages, like every weekend, just competing. The dude is a real fighter for real. You know?
Okay. Okay. So you're here in Puerto Rico. You have obviously Puerto Rican roots. What are you doing here in Puerto Rico?
Well, I'm here to teach and obviously teach a seminar. I'm trying to help grow the sport here. You know, I feel like boxing is the biggest thing in Puerto Rico. You can't deny that. You got great fighters, the Serrano sisters, Xander Zayas. You've had guys like Miguel Cotto, Felix Trinidad. You got some of the best boxers of all time that come out of here, you know? And that's not something that's missing. Striking is a good thing, but I feel like as far as like kickboxing, MMA, like the sport needs to grow on the island, you know. And I feel like all these guys want to rock Puerto Rican flags and stuff, but they don't want to. They aren't actually coming here and helping out and being part of the community. And I have family here. I want to make my family proud. You know what I mean? I want to make my people proud. I want to be someone that people can get behind. You know, I think that's something that they're missing. Puerto Ricans need more fighters and more people to get behind. And I think it'd be really beneficial for the spirit of the island. You know.
Where are these classes?
I'm actually doing my privates pretty much between Tough Love PR, which is a Muay Thai school that my cousin actually owns, and then also Combat 360, which my brother Juan Delgado owns. So I've been doing privates in between there. The seminar will be at Juan's Combat 360 at 11 a.m. on Saturday, which is June 17th.
You know what? I got jiu-jitsu. I know Juan Cruz, Juan Delgado. Saludo ahí a Juan. And I got into jiu-jitsu, and I'm not obviously an athlete. I used to surf when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
There was like probably a year window in my life where I thought I could become a pro bodyboarder, but that's it. But I don't do combat sports. Mm-hmm. And it's so intense when you get into jiu-jitsu and just get your ass whooped. Like my girlfriend was taking the classes with me, and I was maybe overprotective, and I did all the drills with her, and she choked me out like 5 times, and I was like tapping out. Super fun, but it's humbling. Yeah. Like there's no other. When I used to watch any MMA thing, I used to hate it when the fighters got into the floor and grappled but if you take one jiu-jitsu class, you learn so much and you understand the importance of the hooks and who's dominating positions.
Yeah, control.
Yeah, controlling.
Weight distribution especially.
Now, I love when fights go to the... I think I prefer standing
Everyone
up.
prefers to see people get hurt and damaged. Yeah. Everyone likes damage.
But it's interesting. It's very interesting. Yeah. What's your classes like? How would you describe what you're doing this week?
Well, basically, it's a 2-hour seminar. It's just going to be a long class. Obviously, I'm a guest coach, so it's going to be $8 a person. But what I plan on doing, I don't know what I'm going to teach for the second half, but for the first hour, I'm going to teach a lot of the things that Conor was teaching us. I'm going to teach all the stuff I was learning on Tough. Just bring a fresh new look. Last time I was here, I did a 2-hour seminar. It was a lot on calf kicks and distance control and stuff like that. So I like, my thing is like everyone here is very Muay Thai, which is a very square stance, very stationary targets, very back and forth. I don't want back and forth, right? I look at striking like hit and don't get hit, right? Like obviously there's going to be some guys when you move your feet and you dance around, they're not going to give a fuck about what you're doing and they're just going to go forward, right? But you need to understand how to deal with that and how to move on angles and get ahead of your opponent, right? So those are things I kind of want to put into people and stop kind of dealing with that one-dimensional striking technique, right? I want guys to be versatile. And I feel like if I could contribute to that, that'd be good. I like to see good work. I like to see when I do something or put time into somebody, I like to see results. So if I can keep coming and keep helping and keep teaching these fundamentals and help improving the sport, and I see that, it's going to make me feel very good to know that I could contribute to that.
If right now there's a lot of people watching this interview, but a lot of people don't like have a strange opinion on MMA. If we could recommend one fight to the people to watch, and like what fight do you recommend?
You talking about like technique and skill, or you
Like
talking about
entertainment?
to get someone just fired up?
Yeah.
Oh man, I have a couple, man. Obviously, Rory McDonald and Robbie Lawler too is like one of the best ones of all time.
That's the cut one. The
lip, yeah.
Okay.
Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier, like, but these are more stand-up fights.
Like,
I mean, Max,
let's get in the middle.
that Max Holloway Dustin Poirier fight was really good. I love Holloway fights in general. Like Max Holloway and Calvin Kattar, that was a shutout performance, but that was a good display of technique.
What will happen?
Honestly, Volkanovski, any Volkanovski fight is really good to watch.
What's gonna happen with Max Holloway? What's he gonna do with his career next?
Ah, man, he's just gonna keep going, man. I mean, he'll get to the title
But he's
eventually.
a contender.
Yeah, he's always going to be a contender, at least until he hits like the mid-30s and he's old. But like the only problem is like he'd be the champion right now if Volkanovski wasn't there. You know, Volkanovski is the best fighter in the UFC in my opinion right now. If you talk about skill for skill.
Do you think a fourth fight is worth it?
Yeah, but because he already lost to him 3 times, like he has to work his way up. Like, you know what I mean? It's one of those things he has to improve. He has to win like 4 or 5 fights. That's the sad part about that in MMA. Like, you know what I mean? Like Volkanovski left no doubt. You know, he beat him once. He beat him a second time by split. I thought Max won the second fight, but the third fight, he completely shut Max out. So you can't really argue that. It's like Amanda in the second Juliana fight. Like you can't argue a 5-0 shutout, getting your ass whooped, getting dropped, getting cut up. Like Max didn't get dropped, but he got beat up. You know, he was a step behind the whole fight.
You know that fight when Volkanovski went up and fought Makachev, I think that Oliveira's attitude after his win is the way it happened because he got a new perspective on Makachev after the Volkanovski-Makachev fight. He was like,
so?
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, yeah.
Or he already felt him. I feel like that's another thing too. Now that he's already fought Islam, like he has an idea of what to expect, you know? And I think it's the same thing with Volkanovski. Once you step in there with someone, you know them. You know what I mean? When you step in there and you fight somebody, like you know them on a level that other people don't know them. You know what I mean? Like it's like a personality thing, an energy thing. Like it really is. Like going to war with somebody will give you a lot of respect for them and you understand the kind of person they are. It's like what Teddy Atlas calls the chamber of truth, right?
Yeah.
So Dave, I don't know if you heard Oliveira's interview. They asked him after his fight with Dariush, they're like, Charles, what would you do? What would you do different if you fought Islam? And you know what he said?
I was 10% the last time.
No, he didn't say that. You know, he said, he's like, I'm not going to do anything different. I'm going to go out there and beat Charles Oliveira. And, you know, I understand. I know he didn't mean that in like a technical aspect. That was more of a mental thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he wasn't there. He says that he wasn't there the previous fight.
Like mentally he wasn't there. And that can happen to anybody. You know what I mean? You got to understand the pressure these guys are fighting under. They're fighting in front of millions of people. They got families at home. They have a lot on the line. There's a lot of money on the line, sponsorships, opportunity. Because in fighting, you're only as good as your last fight.
Okay, I have a question. By the way, I'm digging this podcast. Are you
I'm
chilling?
digging it. Yeah, I'm digging.
Okay.
I'm chilling. It's good. It's good.
Okay.
Interaction. Yeah.
The last fight, the last Oliveira's fight, he was even though he didn't have the strap, he was the champion.
Yeah.
But it took place in Abu Dhabi.
Oof.
That's Makachev's territory.
Hot as fuck.
Yeah.
It's hot as fuck over there.
And the food's different. The time is different.
It's like
you're in
16-hour
enemy
difference.
territory. It's hot. So now they're speaking of the Makachev Oliveira 2, and they're gonna do it in Abu Dhabi again.
Fuck it. I like it. I like
You
all
like
his
it?
mentality. He doesn't give a fuck about no outside factors. He just wants to fucking smoke. I fought in someone's hometown before, and I fought in DR. I fought a guy.
Yeah,
they were
but he
chanting
was
his
the
name,
champion. He was the champion, and he authorized it to happen in Abu Dhabi. I think it's Makachev's turn to like make it happen elsewhere.
But you know, you're saying this as a fan. You know, as a fighter who's fought in other people's hometowns, I actually sometimes feel like it's easier fighting
really?
as the enemy than being at home. Because there's so much less pressure. Like you're out and you're somewhere where you don't belong. You're out there, you have no obligations. You don't got to go home and do your fucking laundry. You don't got to have anyone hounding you for tickets. You don't have anyone asking you what time it is. You don't have people up your ass. Like there's only one job and one job only. So you have no outside distractions. You're not around your family. You don't have your friends there. It's like, it almost, I mean, they're obviously watching at home, right? But in the moment, in
You're
the
alone.
environment, yeah, you're alone. Like you feel less pressure. It's just you, your team, and you're good. You know what I mean? So realistically, I think sometimes it might be easier fighting away from home. And it feels so much sweeter when you knock a dude out and you get to go to the crowd and be like, shut your ass up. You know what I mean?
Have you had that opportunity?
I did. I wasn't like that in DR. Like, I wasn't like shushing the crowd or nothing, but I definitely did silence the crowd. Like, the crowd was going when I fought in Dominican Republic. When I originally won my belt, I fought in Dominican Republic.
DR.
I was in that was Santo Domingo.
So in DR, there's a scene.
Yeah, there's a big MMA scene over there. They have a lot of fighters over there. Fighting Force is a big promotion over there. And I fought pretty much the guy that was like the #1 in the Caribbean at the time. And I fucking knocked him out after a 2-year layoff. But he was strong. He actually came back after he hasn't fought since he fought me. And he fought at fucking heavyweight, bro. He fought at heavyweight and got a fucking knockout at heavyweight.
But wait a second. That fight was a lightweight.
55. He fought me at 55, and then he was, I don't know what happened. He had a layoff. He went to heavyweight. But he wasn't like fat. He's got good genetics. Black dude. He's jacked, like super jacked.
But that in history, has that happened before?
I don't know, but it's crazy that I just beat a guy that got a knockout at heavyweight. I think that shit's sick. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna run with it.
Who's that guy?
Reynaldo Acevedo.
Okay, by the way, if everyone follow Lone Wolf _145. You should change that. 145.
I had some troll that was like this guy I was beefing with that fucking took the 155.
Oh, really? What a fucking dork.
I might just change it to like Landon Quiñones MMA or some shit. I don't know.
Where did Lone Wolf come?
Well, I was in school, always sleeping in class and not really talking to anybody when I was like towards the end of high school. And I had these two teachers that were really cool, Mr. Lovett and Mr. Clarington. And they used to say, this kid's like a lone wolf. And I trained at this gym, MMA Science Academy. It was ATT Wolfpack at the time. ATT Sunrise, we called the Wolfpack. So they would call me a lone wolf, like just playing around with me. Cool. And I just wrote it down on one of my papers one time and I just ran with it.
You know, we're good. We're here in Gallimbo. We're good friends with the ex-welterweight bare knuckle champ, Brito. Elvin Brito.
Yeah, I know about him.
He's and he spars sometimes in Combat 360. He's a good friend.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I actually was looking at him one time when I was in Titan. I was asking my coach to fight him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it's no beef. I don't think anything ever came of it. I don't think he even had my name go across his desk or whatever. But at one point, I was looking at guys to fight to get me to the next level. And I think he was pretty well ranked in Florida at one point. So I was trying to fight him.
He's a great guy.
But he's long past MMA. I mean, so it wasn't like I'm trying to beef with him or call him out now. But it's just a funny story that I actually was telling my coach, like, yo, I want to let me fight this guy. Let me fight this guy. I think this guy would be a good matchup for me. Yeah, it's funny, right?
Yeah. Ooh. What's your... I don't mean to like be super like trying to get info on the season, but what could we expect? What can you tell us? Tell us something.
I can't tell you nothing about what happened, bro.
Fuck you.
Just expect some excitement. You know, I've been already getting a lot of screen time and talking my shit and like, you know, I'm blessed for that. I didn't really expect that. I'm getting more TV time on people's episodes that aren't even my episodes. So I had a lot of good confessionals. I feel like I was well spoken. I did my thing. You know, I don't know if they're gonna make me a villain. They might make me a villain. I think I'm gonna have a lot of
newsflash. You're an asshole.
No, facts for sure. I think I'm definitely gonna have a lot of love, but I'm also gonna have a lot of hate.
Okay.
And for me, it's kind of nerve wracking because it's like I've been on Titan and stuff, and like these are good regional shows and stuff like that, but I've never dealt with this sort of publicity, you know? I haven't dealt with Chandler talking about me on his podcast. I haven't dealt with like the comment sections of all these UFC posts or like putting me on the teams or like seeing my interactions with Roosevelt and like all this shit. I haven't dealt with that. So for me, it's a new experience, but I actually talked to my managers. Because at first I was pissed off that Chandler was talking about me like that. Like, you don't even know me. And like, you know, it's sad because he was someone I looked up to when I first went to Kill Cliff. Like, he was one of the reasons I went there. I'm like, damn, this guy's a great fighter, great inspirational guy, you know, a guy I looked up to. And then when he was kind of a dickhead to me, it kind of ruined it. But so when I saw him talking about me on his podcast, at first it pissed me off. I was like, heated as fuck. I wanted to write a bunch of shit. And then I called my boy Delano, and he calmed me down and kind of told me what it is. And then I called my manager, and he's like, bro, why are you tripping? Like, any kind of clicks you're getting is good clicks. All publicity is good publicity. Yeah. Even though you're pissing people off and you're running your mouth and you're looking like a cocky asshole, people go watch. You know what I mean? And like, you're giving great TV, you're giving great experience, and you know what I mean? It's gonna
stories. We're getting stories.
Yes, and it's gonna create opportunity for you. So enjoy the process and just relax, take it easy, take it day by day. And I'm like, yeah, you know, that kind of resonated with me. So I've been dealing with it a lot better now. But it's an exciting season, bro. How can a season with Conor McGregor on it not be exciting? You know?
Definitely we'll be tuning in. We're recording this on Tuesday, so definitely we'll be tuning in tonight. Tune in every Tuesday night for The Ultimate Fighter. It's the first time it's on ESPN, regular TV.
ESPN, yep.
I want to say thank you to 666 Monster. Can you This guy helped me a lot for this interview, and he's a knowledgeable guy on combat sports, and he's a fan, and he's a fan of jiu-jitsu and combat sports in general. So thank you, Mario, and thank you, Landon.
Thank you, Shane. You're the man, brother.
Where can people follow you? Only Instagram or something else?
I don't really use Twitter, so Instagram, Lone Wolf _145. Also, I want to give a shout out to my coach, Roger Crawl, my boy Ronnie Lawrence fighting next weekend, my coach Troy Worthen, all my friends and family back home, you know what I mean? And obviously Combat 360, Tough Love PR, my cousin Manuel Rodriguez, Juan Delgado. Thank you guys for the opportunity. Thank you, Shente, for having me, you know what I mean? I'm trying to grow myself, help grow the sport out here, and it's a blessing to just be here and have all these opportunities, you know what I mean? I'll continue to make you guys proud and hopefully and do my best to represent Puerto Rico.
Awesome. Ahí lo tienen, señoras y señores. Fucking Lone Wolf _145. Hasta la próxima. ¡Suave, gorillo!
Let's go.